Hello, I'm Carl Jackson. I'm the Director of Music at the Chapel Royal at Hampton Court Palace, where I've been for 25 years. And I've combined that with being a school teacher and finished being a school teacher a couple of years ago, retired from that. And I did that for 36 years.
Well, hello, my name is Andrew Parmley. I'm Director of the Royal College of Organists, and I've been organist of St James Garlic Hythe in the City of London for 39 and a half years. Like Carl, I've spent some time in the classroom. I've also been involved in theatre and in local government. But the reason we're both speaking together is that Carl recently found a photograph of the two of us at an RSCM Easter course at Russell School in 1971. Carl, tell us about that picture.
My gosh, well, I was in the choir of St Paul's Church, South Harrow at the time, and when I went on the course, I would have been in my second term of secondary school, so I would have been in year 7. And I would have been about 11 or 12, I think, yeah, at the time. Yeah, 11.
Well, that's why you're at the front of the photograph. Sweet 11-year-old. I think I was a desperate 13-year-old, and pretending that my voice had broken, I was trying to sing alto, so that's why I'm toward the back of that photograph. What do you remember about the course, Carl? If anything, 50 years is a long time.
I remember about the course. Oh my gosh, the thrill of singing together in the chapel at the far end of that huge quadrangle. I remember it was rather cold up at Russell School in Fleetwood, very cold, a sort of bracing April wind blowing across the school, and the porridge at breakfast.
Oh, the porridge. If that's the right word for it. I remember two members of staff very distinctly for different reasons, but both for elements of whiteness. The first was Roger Fisher, then organist of Chester Cathedral, playing the organ whilst wearing white socks. Can you believe such a thing? But the other great white memory I have is Gerald Knight's smile at the end of the Magnificat, when he opened his mouth wide and every tooth glistened in the lights of the Royal Chapel. It was a lovely course despite the chill, and unlike yourself, I probably travelled 3 miles by tram from further down the Fylde coast. So after my time as a choir boy, I had very little to do with choristers for the rest of my life, really. I've worked extensively with professional singers, but not the training of boys, which is a great skill. But Carl, tell us about your career in that respect.
Oh gosh, but I started training boys when I was at Croydon Parish Church. That would have been in 1986. Up until that time, my involvement with choirs had been with contemporaries, of course, at college when one directs a college chapel choir. But with the training of boys, that would have been Croydon from 1986 to 1990. And I followed, if I'm not mistaken, I followed Simon Lowell in that position.
I smile because I can't think of Simon Lowell without thinking of the words Leo Milson, which is an anagram of his name, which he seems to use for some of his compositions when he's not too pleased with them. So Leo Milson to me, Simon Lowell to you.
Yes.
Simon Lowell was a great exponent of the idea of the girl chorister, obviously not the first person to get involved with girls singing in church and cathedral. But Carl, I mean, as a man who's had a career working with the Chapel Royal and therefore with boys, what's your view of the girl chorister?
I have every support for girl choristers, and I remember from my time at Croydon, we were pioneers, I think one could say, in the running of a separate girls and boys choir. I think the girls choir arose from the fact that there were 2 morning services, and then the girls sang what was called the 9:30 service. And then the boys and the men, they sang the later 11 o'clock service. So this idea of having a foundation which has both girls and boys running together, which cathedrals adopted later, for example, Salisbury, but it had been going on quietly, very successfully at Croydon for a very long time indeed.
So that tells us 2 things, that of course girls can sing in churches. It also tells us that better at getting up in the morning than the boys and the men. And of course, there are excellent girls' choirs across the nation singing in churches, or one thinks of Southwark Cathedral. But when I went to St James Gaelic in 1982, it was to play evensong to stand in, said Simon Lowell, and he simply never came back. So, Simon, if you're watching this, you owe me for 40 euros of fees. Carl, what about the Voice for Life scheme? Is that something you've used?
I've used the Voice for Life scheme or participated in it at the Bath course for young choristers. We don't use it at Hampton Court, I have to say. I'm sorry. Oh gosh. But we use the spirit of the scheme certainly, and I remember with great affection training some of the youngsters who've taken the associated awards with the scheme. And I have to say it's an excellent scheme because it guides you through musical skills and also builds your musicianship. So you have the scheme, and then allied to that, you have the awards as well. And it's good to have structure as one progresses being a chorister.
Absolutely the case, and I commend Hugh Morris, director of the Royal School of Church Music, and his many predecessors for formulating these schemes, and indeed the most recent manifestation, the new education menu, which is very important, is going to make a big impact across the nation and further afield. And of course, my own Royal College of Organists is working with the RSCM to develop new choir training diplomas. So hats off to the RSCM and to Hugh, and indeed, can I thank the RSM for its support of choristers at every level, but particularly those people working with modest means in the local church. What you do for those people is absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you. And of course, they do a little bit for the cathedrals as well, I think, Carl.
Yes, well, there are some cathedrals whose choirs are affiliated to the RSCM. We are very much so affiliated to the RSCM because we also will sing with the spirit and with the understanding also.
Oh, Salam Spiritu et Mente.
Indeed.
Printed on the brain, isn't it? So I'm going to end my bit by telling you my best time as a chorister. And that was, although we were based in Blackpool in a parish church, we occasionally got to sing evensong in Blackburn Cathedral, which had a stunning organ, 3 manuals in those days, 4 now. But it was one of the first detached consoles I'd ever seen, a console on caster wheels with an umbilical cord. It was an amazing thing. But then my choirmaster decided that we would take a mini tour of the cathedrals associated with the Three Choirs Festival, which we did, and included Tewkesbury Abbey. And what an amazing eye-opening experience that was for a 10-year-old boy to sing in those magnificent buildings. But also being in Blackpool, Christmas Eve, every hotel on Promenade was open, and we used to sing carols from 6 in the evening till midnight, dropping into every hotel. And if we managed that, we were rewarded with half a crown. And if we then got up the next morning, and girl chorister-like, and sang the morning service, the vicar gave us a florin, 2 shillings, or in today's money, 10 pence. So the 2 extravaganzas earned us 22.5 new pence. But it was well worth having in those days, 50 years ago.
Absolutely.
Memories, Carl? What
memories? Oh gosh, memories as a chorister. I think what strikes me was singing in St Paul's Cathedral for the very first time, and to hear your voice coming back at you for about 8 or 9 seconds when you sing Zadok the Priest, which is what I did. And also hearing the final few bars, that amazing trumpet militaire. I've never heard anything like it. Gosh.
Well, I think it's time you had one fitted at Hampton Court. Well, look, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen and girls and boys, for listening to 2 old men rabbiting simply because Carl found a photograph of us 50 years ago when we didn't even know each other.
Indeed.
Fancy that.
Indeed.
So, bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.